You're muted.
Fam, be quiet. Don't talk down to me. Welcome, everybody. It's the TruthWire. It's truth time. I am your host, Craig Pasta Jardula.
And I'm Fiorella.
And of course, Jayme CheeseSlice is on the ones and twos, holding it down. And our producers are in the stream, in the chat. Gabrielle Freedom is there producing. Fred Edwards, who loves to join in and help on out. Fam, Fred Edwards wants to know what size shirt you are.
I'm a small.
Woman small?
Yeah.
Kids small?
Woman.
Ladies? Child small?
Yeah. Almost.
Yes, that's awesome. Guys, you can see I got my pin on. It says, no kids in cages. Can you see that? Fam, can you guess where I got this at?
Minnesota.
Nope. I got it during the Libertarian Convention from one of the groups out there. They're not all as bad as you say they are, right? This is one particular group in the Libertarian Convention that believed that kids shouldn't be in cages. So they saw, the future, what was going on. They had not just hindsight, but foresight. And I think that's really important right now because this is something that we have to talk about because this particular situation, when it comes to ICE and what's going on, it starts with the immigrants, right? That's how they manufacture consent. That's why so many conservatives or people on the populist right go, yeah, they're breaking the law. Let's do this. But eventually, fam, who will they use these big detention ICE centers for?
Everybody else.
You damn Skippy. They will. And check out the Skippy video if you don't want to sleep for a couple nights. Guys, we want to remind everybody that all the ways to help us are out down below in the chat. Of course, we have a Give, Send, Go going on. We'll show you that really quickly. We'll talk about it throughout the show. Listen, fam, I got to tell you, it's been so re-energizing seeing so many people jump in and send the love that way. And you need to do it, guys, because we're going to give you the news that you can't get anywhere else. I mean, there are people out there who are doing some outstanding work, but for the most part, you get a lot of chitter chatter, a lot of bullshit, and you can see what happened with the populist right? They showed you that most of them are just team sports players. They don't have principles. They don't care about the Constitution. All they are is cheerleaders, and that's the worst thing because the fourth estate, fam, Fred Edwards got pissed at that, is all about holding the government accountable, the fourth estate, making sure that we report and shine a light on the truth of what's going on so they can't get out of hand. And fam, that's all they're doing is getting out of hand. And we're going to start with Marco Rubio in Munich because for me, that's him setting the table for future wars, not just what happened in the past.
We're still on Marco Rubio in Munich. Oh, God.
Yeah, well, we haven't got a chance to do that show yet, so we're doing it now, right? So why don't we get the ball rolling, fam? And guys, thank you so much. Like we said, all the ways to help the show are down. Hi, Tisa. Go ahead and share it. Share the link, share the YouTube, share the Twitter, share the Rumble, share the Rockvin if you're still hanging out over there. Who even knows? But just share. We are still demonetized.
Forgot about that.
We are still, trying to fight. Why don't you bring it up really quickly, Jayme, so we can see where we're at right now in the beginning of the show and see where we're at by the end of the show. Right? I think that's a good thing. We're at 1417. We've had 20 donations. We've had 12 shares. Guys, if you can't send money, help us out and share. Share it anywhere. Tag it, copy it, text it to people, email it to people, snail mail it to people for all I care, fam. Just share it on out. Share the Dickens. That's us in 2018 when we did one of our first events. That was in San Diego at the Democratic Convention. Little did they know that years later they would be putting out do not disturb passes, do not enter. They wouldn't let us go in after certain times. That's kind of funny. But we'll get to it, fam. Yeah. Anything to say?
No. I mean, we need your support now more than ever. Again, there's just a lot of people that are basically have all sold out one way or another. And we're just trying to maintain our integrity, but it's not easy to do. Like it would be a lot easier to just go, work for a certain narrative. And that's not something either of us wants to do. So that's why we're asking for your help and for you guys to really be the ones that carry us through. And I think that's also kind of putting your money where your mouth is in a way, instead of just, relying on a lot of the pre-selected voices. I mean, we're seeing the likes of the Young Turks rebrand themselves as if they're, anti-Zionist and have been this way all along. They also went the right wing route to try to like hyper focus on the trans stuff, to try to like, get some of that audience. And it's very obvious to me what they're doing. But a lot of the people, and this is what we're going to discuss today, weren't around or didn't see that with them. They weren't politically aware, they weren't around. And so it's easy to dupe a lot of new people, a lot of younger generations that don't know. And that's why you're seeing a reemergence of those people, of what is it, Breaking Points and Crystal Ball and whatever his name is. And like you're seeing like this kind of like rebranding, and you'll see it every few years. Like these people were never consistent. They're never truthful. They just go where they see like the wind blowing. And that's why you see these transitions. And a lot of people say, well, people can change, they can form new beliefs. Yeah, if they're genuine, you'll see that. But this isn't genuine. This is like, you'll see it when the next thing comes around, and their beliefs will continue to change in that way too. So I think there's a lack of understanding. There's a lot of naivety in the world of what is supposed to be anti-imperialists. They tend to look for heroes and saviors. They tend to look for people. They tend to give people the benefit of the doubt. And many times Pasta and I have gone into arguments because I feel like sometimes he tries to see the good in all people, which exists, but there are people that are just really not genuine. And for me, it's very easy to spot, and it's always been an easy thing for me to spot. But Pasta, he's given some people too much leeway, in my opinion. And Pasta's very nice, a nice person, but I think there's a little bit of naivety in general with a lot of anti-imperialists who seek to talk to everybody, but then find out, like, just because people say the right thing when it's convenience, like with the Epstein stuff right now that we're seeing, like with the Gaza stuff, doesn't mean that they're there for the right reasons. And for me, the reason why people do something matters. The motivations behind why people do things matter oftentimes more than what they believe. And so that is, I think, a difference that you will see with us. I don't know if you want to respond to that, Pastor.
I will definitely tell you there's a lot of disappointment when I get let down. I get let down a lot. I'm still going to be that same type of person, that same nice person, overbearing, hope for the best in people, see if they can manage to be there. And if they do let me down, which a lot of people have let me down, so be it with it. I'll take the lumps. I know that going into that, that's why a lot of times it's, I tell Fiorella, I mean, you were right about this. She's like, wasn't I right about everything? I'm like, yeah, shut up. But, it is true. Unfortunately, you got to look at people's motivations right now. And right now we have to look about who's in power. We have to be aware that the Democrats are going to swing back. I think that's why today's show is so important, because we're going to talk about what's going on now. We're going to talk about Marco Rubio, America's foreign policy, what they're signaling on moving forward, which is the same old, same old. They're just trying to package it, rebrand it, right? That's what they did with Donald Trump. It wasn't about the system is not wrong. It's just the management is wrong. So let's bring in new management. How many times we've heard that? We know the system itself is flawed, right? Donald Trump didn't want to release the Epstein files, according to Marjorie Taylor Greene, because it would hurt his friends. Same thing. Everybody's protecting each other. It's one big circle jerk. But when we talk about AOC today, we're going to talk about what's going to be going on in the future, who they're going to try and present. Unfortunately, the Democrats, or the left in this country, the synthetic left, I like to call it, because it's not a real left, have AOC at the top of their list, right? Gavin Newsom's a close second. Kamala Harris is still hanging on for third. Glass ceilings, fam. But that's what they're going to swing around and try to do. So we're going to talk about how we combat what's going on now, being aware of what they're going to try to usher on in, because they're trying to take a complete advantage of this ICE situation. And we're gonna show you too, with Hillary Clinton in the final section, about, once again, it's the same old, right? It's It's the rainbow stickers, fam, on the B-2 bomber, right? It's going to come out hugs and flowers and perfume as they drop these bombs. It's a more palatable, is that the word? Palatable? Palatable?
Palatable.
Yeah, palatable form of imperialism. And we have to reject it altogether because it's the same shit. There is no lesser of two evils when you're talking about the Republicans and the Democrats. I know a lot of you thought that who voted for Donald Trump. And once again, I'll forgive you for that because we thought the same thing with Obama. It's not the case. It's the same shit. These people are telling you who they are, and we have to find a way to reject them. Unfortunately, and I think a lot of people are still kind of peeking in, what's the third party going to be like, what not? That shit is so out of whack. I think that fam has a point when we're not going to vote our way out of this. We're not going to find a savior who's going to rescue us. Do we have the answers on what to do to move forward? No. But we definitely have to acknowledge the problem first, right? We acknowledge the problem first, then we can come up with solutions once we acknowledge the problem. But if your problem, acknowledging the problem, is this is the lesser of two evil, insanity, right? The definition of insanity is playing the same game over and over again and expecting different results. No, we're going to still have the worst results. And don't tell me that Donald Trump was a better option, right? And it's not that he's being awful and whatnot. It's that the Democrats do, when they get in office, what the Republican cans do, and vice versa. What is going on with the technocratic age and what's going on, these contracts that Donald Trump is signing with Peter Thiel and Palantir and all these other spyware companies, they're completely putting us on the grid. They're tracing us everywhere. And they can do that under Donald Trump because if Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom, AOC, if any of them were in office right now and did it, fam, the right wing would be going crazy. And the independents would be going crazy. How could you do this? You're giving up all our data. Our civil liberties are gone. But with Donald Trump as well, if it's for the greater good, fam, and we're going to get rid of these illegal immigrants here, then we should do it. Come on, guys. How does an immigrant affect your life every single fucking day? It's just their version of a boogeyman. And now they're using the term domestic terrorism on the left, and you think it's okay? What's going to happen, fam, when the Democrats get back in power? Who's going to be the domestic terrorist then?
This is why we can't have nice things, because people have such short-term memories and they forget when they were on the under the microscope, when they were being the targets, and they also forget what XYZ politician did 5 years ago. That's how short the term memory is. So we're here to remind everybody who these people really are, what the problem really is. And I think we can offer actually some solutions to the problem. And I think we've been talking about these solutions, but people just don't understand what that is. Like, the solution isn't to vote every 4 years or every 5 years. The solution isn't also the Green Party. And I'll say this, I think that's probably still an unpopular thing for a lot of people to hear, but I don't think the solution is any party at this point. The Green Party has not done anything. They haven't been able to because the system is rigged against them. Yeah. And they themselves have moved towards embracing a lot of the really shitty democratic parts of the democratic establishment. So, like, they've kind of veered away in many aspects. And there's a lot of people always hyping the Green Party, but at the end of the day, they're not addressing the election issue. They're not addressing the issue that there isn't reform that's viable in this country until you address the underlying systemic issue, which is the fact that those in power are not going to willingly give it up. They're not going to allow you to have a third party that's going to overtake and undo the Democrats or the Republicans, unless, of course, that party is captured. They're not going to willingly give up power. So in order for people to change things, they have to force that in one way or another. And I think that's the ultimate solution people are kind of trying to not admit to. But again, we've exhausted this years ago. I mean, we're here 10 years later from 2016, and people are still giving me the same arguments that they were. People like Emma Vigilant are still giving us the same, you're sexist against AOC. This is why you're criticizing her. It's like, listen, I'll be the first to tell you that sexism does exist in this world, but I'll also be the first to tell you you're using it as a crutch to protect your favorite politicians, including AOC, Kamala Harris, and all these freaking awful imperialist women to divert the fact that they're still doing imperialism. It's just, with rainbows and pink bows, but they're still doing it. So
Yep.
that's the point we want to make.
And right, fam, we're not on Marco Rubio today, by the way. You were right. We did that the other day. I'm getting ready tomorrow. I'm going to go on Crosstalk and talk about Marco Rubio and the Munich Council. We did talk about that on Monday. Today, we're going to talk about Cuba. Because Cuba wants to do business with China, and we don't want that. So we're going to talk about that because really, to tell you the truth, to me, from what I heard, was when Donald Trump voiced his opinion. And by the way, Jayme, what you can do too is, Jayme, go into the Give, Send, Go. Go all the way down and copy each one and put it in a comment and share it and then star it so we can eventually share these names with the break because we just had 2 more donations coming in. But go down to Chris Allegra. That was a day ago. So we want to make sure that we can mention everybody on the show that donates and put your name up on the screen because we do appreciate that. There's some great people in there. Margaret Villa came in. That's awesome. So if you can do me a favor, Jayme, just copy each message and put it in the chat real quick. Or do you want me to do that or Gabrielle to do that? Can you do that? You got it? And then star them so we can share them after this section. But let's get to the show, fam, because Afshin Ratanzi shared some great stuff yesterday, and I decided to share his tweets twice because there was a lot of people sharing what Donald Trump said on Air Force One. And once again, for all you people out there, especially the women out there that are still sticking up for Donald Trump, you've spent enough time sticking up for dumb men your whole life. You don't have to continue to do it. You don't have to. You don't have to continue to make excuses for these asshole men. Those women who made so many excuses for their ex-boyfriend. Well, he only beats me when I raise my voice. Yeah, I get it. You don't have to continue making excuses for asshole men anymore. Start with Donald Trump. Stop making excuses for him. He's not here to help you. He's not here to save you. He is part of. Jayme, we'll share those later. We'll announce those during the break. Just star them for now. He's here to advance the technocratic, the one world government. He's doing his part. He's here to increase imperialism, the empire, war, spying state. He's not here for our freedoms, to make America grow, to make sure we're not being taken advantage of. Remember when he was saying, oh, we got to stop being taken advantage of by all these countries. We need to stop getting involved with all these stupid wars, the peace president. And now we're being taken advantage of these countries, so we're going to go to war with them. Completely different than what he campaigned on. Here's what he said on Air Force One. And after he says it, I'll let you go right into it and get into it. Go ahead, Jayme. Let's play the first video. What was said by Donald Trump talking about
Cuba right now, and Marco Rubio talking to Cuba right now, and they should absolutely make a deal because it's really a humanitarian threat. And we have a lot of great Cuban Americans, and they're going to be very happy when they're going to be able to go back and say hello to their relatives and do things that they should have been allowed to do for a long time. I'm very interested in the people that are here that were treated so badly by Castro and the Cuban authorities. They have been treated horribly. So we'll see how it all turns out. But Cuba and us, we are talking. In the meantime, there's an embargo. There's no oil. There's no money. There's no anything. We're talking.
All right, fam, right off the bat, is that not a war crime when he talks about there's no money, he's killing children. He's starving out women and children. And he also mentioned the Gusanos, right? The Cuban Americans, the ones that didn't want to stay in Cuba. They wanted to come here. And the America had to grant them amnesty because they tried to overthrow that government. Fam, have at it.
Yeah, so Donald Trump here is basically telling the world that he is Gazifying Cuba. And he's admitting to this entire thing because he's literally saying that this is a humanitarian thing, but he's preventing Cuba and he's preventing other countries from helping Cuba. I mean, we've seen Mexico do it, but very few other countries. I have seen all kinds of allegations that Russia's doing this, that China's doing that. But I'm in a chat with people there right now, and I have not seen anything get to Cuba yet in terms of oil or anything else besides the humanitarian aid from Mexico. And I think China did send rice, or no, was it? I think Vietnam was sending rice, but I'm not entirely sure.
China said
Of
solar
anything
panels, fam.
else. China has the solar panels, yes. But I mean, this is like, he's right. He's recognizing this is a humanitarian thing. But how can you say that without knowing and understanding you're the one preventing people from pretty much living? I mean, pretty much getting their life, living their life, because oil is what keeps that island going. And so without oil, that it's just very hard for them to continue. And I know the Cuban government and the Cuban people are doing everything they can to sustain themselves, right, on their own. But at the same time, this is a kind of chokehold that they have them in, and they're also chokeholding everybody else from helping them. And if that's not illegal, I don't know what is. But the reason he can do it, it's because we've already seen it be done to Gaza. We've already passed this. And what has the UN done? What has international law been able to do? What have other countries done in the face of blowing up children and people, innocent people in tents? They haven't done anything. So once we've crossed that bridge, I've said this many times, the next thing is just going to normalize it. And there's an attempt to normalize genociding people because you don't like their politics, because you don't agree, or because you want access to the region. And that's exactly what is happening. And it is a violation of international law. It is illegal. It is a war crime. But who's going to punish them?
Yeah. Well, it seems like we only pay attention to international law. We can use it for our benefit, right? So it is kind of crazy, starving children out. And I think you made some excellent points, fam, to the fact that, we'll continue to do this. Who's going to punish them? Who's going to stop them? We don't care about international law if it affects our objective. That is the foreign policy apparatus and whatnot. And I would ask people who are justifying this, like, well, he's a dictator and he's talking about Castro's been dead for how many years now, fam? How many years has Castro been dead for? And we're still dealing with this right now? I mean, Diaz-Canel is a different type of politician in Cuba. He's not a military man. He's an educated man. And he has talked about so many things that Castro hasn't talked about. In fact, the reason why I went to Cuba a couple times, the main reason why I went, not only to bring some baseball equipment and do my activism, and I love that, and to just enjoy Cuba, the cigars, the food, the people, the culture, but was to try and get involved with the elections. For years, Cuba has kind of shut out Americans and international observers. Diaz-Canel has talked about that. There's a different type of rhetoric, type of language when it comes to Diaz-Canel. And if the United States was really interested in obtaining some peace, they would have sat down with Diaz-Canel and say, this is a new way forward. If you are concerned with the Cubans here that were treated so awfully and that their children haven't been able to go back because what you think they are being punished for, then sit down with this government and talk about this. Diaz-Canel did not put the missiles on the island from the USSR, right, from the Cuban Missile Crisis. That wasn't him. Those people are gone. And don't tell me that Raul Castro is still running things. It's not. It's Diaz-Canel. It's the party. But even the party, fam, has kind of moved away from the old style communism that they had. In fact, they made reports a couple years ago, and this was shortly after I went there, that they were going to have less of a grip on all different factions of the financial districts, all right? In other words, the economy. They're not going to own the hotels anymore that they grabbed and whatnot. They understand it's too much managing that they can't do. And they even said they're going to reduce from controlling 143 parts of the economy down to the 40s. They didn't announce which ones, but they were definitely moving back. So everything that we accuse them of doing, this communist dictatorship, they control too much, people can't have their freedom. They're taking a step back. They're looking to open up for investment. But here's the thing. I don't think the Chinese or the Russians dare even come in there hardcore, fam, because it's right on our doorstep. It's literally right down the street here. It's right down the way. I'm in Florida. I can get on a boat and be in Cuba by the end of the day. Literally. So I think with this rhetoric right now, this is about the United States, not even just controlling what they used to control, but they want to make sure that Cuba's under their thumb no matter what. So.
Yeah, but here's the thing. The United States doesn't hesitate to go on the doorstep of China or Russia. So, they don't hesitate, right? They go on the doorstep of anybody. and everybody else. So does Israel. So it's not like if you're not going to understand that they're willing to do that and you're not, then to me that means that you don't understand how far they're willing to go, and you're in a very vulnerable position. And I think that's what's happened to especially Russia and Iran, things that they have to grapple with. Um, it's not the United States, Washington, the intelligence apparatus, military intelligence apparatus, does not respect this sort of restraint. They look at it as weakness. And a lot of the times, these officials from these countries don't understand that. They think that by showing diplomacy and respect and saying, we're not like you, the United States is going to see that and back off. That actually makes them do the opposite, because they know that when they push that button, you're not going to push it back. And that's just a reality of how Washington thinks, that I think a lot of world leaders fail to understand. A lot of anti-imperialist sectors fail to understand. In order to defeat that, you need to have a bloc that is willing to go far enough. Otherwise, they know that you're willing to fold eventually, and that's what we're seeing happen one by one with the targets that are now on Iran, on in West Asia, and pretty much, in an effort to combat China. But I think with the United States and China, I think more than any war, that's just going to be an economic war. And I think people need to understand that the economic world of capitalism that both China and the United States participate in is so intertwined that they benefit more by this economic competition than by actually engaging in a war. So I think that's where we're headed.
Jayme said to me before the show, fam, wondering, he goes, one of these people in Latin America are going to realize that, say that the West is ruining their countries, and it's continuing. Why don't they all band together, these countries, and fight back and push back against the imperialists? And I said, well, there's a lot of people in those countries that want the West in there, and there's a lot of squabbling amongst the country itself. Believe it or not, there's a lot of people in Cuba that still want the West to come back in. You know what I'm saying? And not everybody is a pro-revolutionary, especially the younger generation, because, they're 60 years removed from that revolution. I talked to some young people in Cuba, and they're like, look, we don't give a shit about the revolution. I got a phone. I can see what they're doing in Miami. I can barely eat. Like, what the fuck? And they're going to blame their country directly, because that's what sanctions and an embargo does. It causes chaos and, arguments between those countrymen within a country. So that's what they're fighting against. Antiwar.com. I want to bring up this antiwar.com real quick, Jayme, if we could, because there's a section I want to read. If you can scroll down real quickly to even if diplomatic talks were taking place, right? Because this is very interesting. All right. Let me know when we're there. When it says even, right there. All right. We're perfect. You can stay right over there. So I'm going to read this really quickly, fam, because this is very important. This is very interesting. It says, even if diplomatic talks were taking place, it's unclear what sort of agreement the U.S. wants, as Trump has not spelled out his demands of Havana. The president told reporters that as long as a deal isn't reached, the embargo will continue. In the meantime, there's an embargo. There's no oil. There's no money. There's no anything, he said. Responding to Trump's comments, a Cuban official pointed out that the U.S. officials typically deny humanitarian damage that the U.S. sanctions cause. It is frequent for the U.S. officials and diplomats to claim that U.S. aggression is not responsible for the difficulties in Cuba. It seems they don't listen to their president, including the chief diplomat in Havana. Cuban Deputy Foreign Minister Carlos de Casio wrote on X. Trump was asked if he would consider carrying out an operation in Cuba similar to the attack in Venezuela, which he resulted in the U.S. kidnapping of President Nicolas Maduro. I don't want to answer that. Why would I answer that, you stupid person? Who are you? Fake news. It wouldn't be very tough operation, though, as you can figure, but I don't think that'll be necessary, he said. So, fam, it is kind of telling, and the reason why I put this part of the article up from antiwar.com, you can take it down, is because they don't want to make a deal. They don't want compromise. They don't want to find a way forward together. What they want, Jayme, what they want is complete regime change. That's it. So you're not trying to compromise anything. You're not trying to reach a country with them. You're trying to remove their government so you can plant in yours. Plain and simple. Your thoughts, fam?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Diaz-Canel and much of the Cuban leadership has already said, we're willing and have been willing to engage with the United States. We've been willing to negotiate with the United States, go sit at a table with the United States, but we're not willing to give up our sovereignty of our country. That's not something we're willing to do, and we're not ever going to be willing to do that. So they've been very clear about what it means. And if the United States is going there with this idea that they're going to take over and that they're going to try to manage Cuba, that's not what those people want at all whatsoever. And it essentially would mean to make Cuba another Puerto Rico, which is what I think would be the plan first, right? After they continue genociding it and Gazifying it, I think that's what the next step would be, because it's so close, as Pasta says. I mean, you can see Cuba from the United States. It takes you longer to go to the airport and go through the entire process, and it does while you're flying on Cuba. So to Cuba. So it's just, it's very easy for them to take it. They haven't done a military operation because they knew that taking out Venezuela first, or engaging in a semi-war with Venezuela, would allow them to then easily be able to go after Cuba. But Cuba is putting off a resistance in spite of everything, and they're really trying to maintain control of the government. So and for that they're being punished.
And fam, I do want to note out as we go over this stuff that there will be a kind of like arguing from the Democrats that they're better to Cuba than the Trump administration is. And that might be true, but it's not like they're anything really significantly changed while Barack Obama was in office. Yeah, they didn't end the embargo, whatnot. Yeah, but they lifted up, the emoluments. Excuse me, not the emoluments. What do you call them? The when you send money to another country. Remittance. Thank you. They extended the remittance. They opened up airlines. They made it easier for you to go visit. So there is a little wiggle room there in which the Democrats will be arguing on. But once again, I think we'll point out the fact that it's just minimalist and it's not anything significant that's really changing the actual policy from the Democrats, how they feel towards Cuba. It's still empire and the embargo is still there. The reason why I put this next one up is Trump extends the authorization of detention of ships bound for Cuba for a year. That is important, but look what it says underneath there. And there wasn't really much in the argument in the article about it. The U.S. leader also added that mass migration from Cuba would endanger United States national security. So this is where the point comes in. Remember when you pointed out to some of the Venezuelan people that were being detained that were pro-America, the Gusanos, and they were being detained going, what's going on? That's what's going to happen here. So if you think you're a friend to this government just because you're a Cuban who's on their side, think again. Because they'll detain you and put you in a detention center if they could. So don't think that you're friends with them, because they don't give a shit about you. Once they're done rounding up the anti-American Cubans that you talk about, they'll go after you. You're on the target spot, fam.
Yeah.
That's it. Next one.
Castro.
Yep. So I love playing these videos, these old school videos of Castro. This is one with Afshin Ratanzi was talking about. And I'll read it, Jayme. You can keep it low. Go ahead, bring it on in. When Castro recognized years ago that fighting the empire wasn't about just Cuba fighting the empire, it was about everybody, that the empire is going after everybody. It says, we revolutionary Cubans understand right off the bat that our international obligations, put it a little bigger. Our people understand their obligation because they understand that we face a common enemy. That the enemy that threatens Cuba is the same enemy that threatens everyone else. That is why we say and we proclaim that Cuban fighters will lend support to any revolution movement in any corner of the earth. Fam, he got it. He understood it, right? I mean, is that not true?
He
Show me
understood
the
what
lie.
people fail to understand today. What people still fail to understand today. You know, when they say things like, "Oh, but the Cuba is not in the sphere of influence of Russia and China." But Venezuela, is all the way in the Americas. Well, that's the thing, right? If they were revolutionary movements, like many people think they are, then they would understand that, and then that they would be supportive on a defensive level, on a military level, on a political and ideological level. They would band together if that was the case. If we were in a world that some people think we're in, where it's Russia, China, Iran against the hegemonic West, that world does not exist right now. The world that exists is a multilateral world that's coming, but it is based on capitalism. It is not based on ideology. It is based on pragmatism. It is not based on revolutionary thought. It is based on expansion of economic capital. That is why you're not seeing Venezuela or Syria or Cuba or X country that's next on the chopping block be saved in any way, because there's not a coalition to save them. The only people that have a coalition are in West Asia, in the axis of resistance, with Hezbollah, with Yemen, Ansarullah, with Hamas, with the various military groups, revolutionary groups that exist, that are part of Iran's also resistance, and extend even into parts of Iraq right now. That's the only axis of resistance that exists, that is working together. That's the only people that you saw attack Israel when they went after Gaza, when they shot them down. That's why you see that. It's not their country, it's not their people, but the ideology, the revolutionary ideology is there. That ideology that understands, okay, if somebody that is fighting our common enemy is attacked, we're all part of that same target. They're the same enemy. They're the same people. So we have to combat that. And that is a reality that I think a lot of people, a lot of analysts, a lot of people that, have channels that are widely popular, they talk about multipolarity this and multipolarity that, and China's going to come in and do this. And it's like, but that's not what's happening. What's actually happening is what I'm saying. Like, I wish it was happening, but that's not the reality. And Castro understood that when you have a common enemy and others, your neighbors, your friends are being attacked, if you're not supporting that, then you're giving allowance to that common enemy to target you next. And people still have yet to understand what that means and what he said to this day.
Yep, it's the truth, fam. So goes then, so goes now. So that's it for that section, guys. We want to remind everybody that all the links down below to help us out. This would be a good time, fam. We didn't talk much about the solar panels in China today, because I don't know if that's going to be a quick fix, if that's going to even work, what's going to happen. It does seem like they are donating a bunch of solar panels to try to plug into the grid. I'm thinking that once they're all done, the United States is just going to bomb them. I really do. So we'll keep an eye on that. We'll see how that works. But China is donating a bunch of solar panels to Cuba to help lessen the blow. But the big problem is that a lot of people are not speaking up about this or speaking out against it. They're actually justifying it and saying that this is okay. And this is not a peace president who's, once again, starving out children to punish a government, not a regime, because that's what the people wanted. Guys, we're going to read some of the comments. Fam, unless you have anything else to say about this and you want to put a cherry on top, or you said enough.
No, you have a side note about Peru or something.
Oh, I do. I'm going to talk about that right now. Let's bring that up real quick, fam, because this happened the other day. This is from a couple days ago. Peru's Congress president, right? They removed him.
No, the Congress removed Peru's president. Yeah.
President, put it up, Jayme. Jayme, put it up. Because of China Link secrets meetings, fam. I don't know if you want to give any word on this because well, go ahead. And you know what I'm saying, because the only thing I really wanted to point out was the first couple sentences, which is Peru's Congress on Tuesday ousted President Jose Jerry just 4 months into his term over a scandal involving an undisclosed meeting with Chinese businessmen, extending a cycle of political upheaval that has gripped the Andean nation for much of the past decade. There were 75 lawmakers who voted for the removal of Jerry. Is it Yeti? While 24 voted against and 3 abstained. This is the next part I wanted to read. Legislators will now elect a new head of Congress who will also assume Peru's presidency, becoming the country's 8th president in as many years. Yeti is Peru's 3rd consecutive president to be removed from office, fam. And I want to stop right there. Anytime a president tries to change the Constitution, it seems they throw him in jail. They keep removing the president. What is actually going on over here, fam? Can you provide some information why they have so many presidents? It seems like that the left or the grassroots movement gets to also remove presidents too as well. Fujimori spent some time in prison, her father, right? So what's actually going on? Where's the power struggle? What's happening in Peru, and why is this continuing to happen this way?
So Peru has a very corrupt Congress, and the Congress has a lot of power. And the majority of people that control Congress right now are the party of Keiko Fujimori, Fuerza Poder. And that one is the party that constantly likes to remove people. Peru's legitimate president is sitting in prison right now. That was Pedro Castillo, who was elected by the people of Peru, overwhelmingly, of course, from the Andean regions, from the rural areas. The people elected him, not from Lima, where the majority of the people vote against their own interests and want foreign and international business investments and capital. And in Lima right now, you will talk to the majority of people and they will say that the left is the problem, and they hate the left, and they hate anything remotely left-leaning. Now, the reason this guy was even president is because Peru's former vice president became the president after Pedro Castillo was put in jail. She betrayed Pedro Castillo, and she basically took over the presidency. Pedro Castillo is the only one that's actually tried to change Peru's constitution, and he tried to do so in a proper way. He was tricked. He was put in there and kind of tricked into it looking like he was being corrupt, but there really wasn't a sign that he was corrupt. He was just a very naive, guy who had only experienced in union building and union leadership. He was not somebody that was equipped, I think, to actually have the balls and the strength to be a president, because in Peru you have the media, and the media, a lot of them are bought, and a lot of them are constantly working for the establishment. But you also have the media that watches your every move. So what they've been doing is they've been watching the moves of every single president, and they find that eventually most of them fall into some kind of corruption. This guy was not just taken out, or what we would call impeached and removed, because he was talking to Chinese investors, but he was also taken out because he had hired like 17 women to work for him, given them positions of power with really good salaries, and they would go in the morning and they wouldn't leave till the next day, and they were spending time in the palace, in the Peruvian presidential palace, and he would just switch them out. So he was basically sleeping with these women and giving them positions of power. So this guy is actually a corrupt guy who was caught doing all sorts of things. But the issue of the Chinese business people actually points to a much bigger thing that Peru is facing. And that is the fight between China and the United States for Peru's resources, particularly resources that are essential to the AI technologies that China is heavily invested in, and to the technological computer chip sector that also both the United States and China are heavily invested in. And this guy had meetings with Chinese executives because of the port of Shanghai. And this port has made it very easy for shipments from China to come to Peru in a short amount of time. Instead of going all the way around the world, because remember, Peru's in the Pacific, they just go the other way around. They skip the Panama Canal, and the United States doesn't like that. They don't like this at all. So they've been pissed off. And what they've done is that they've changed the ambassador to Peru, who's actually Puerto Rican with a Peruvian wife. And this ambassador to Peru is basically trying to convince Peruvian leadership to move towards the US and leave the Chinese behind. So there's like a huge battle right now. And this is why they've taken out the president, among other things. But it's convenient for the United States because now, once this election happens, there's an opportunity for the far right. And unfortunately, in Peru, a lot of the people that control the money are itching to elect somebody like Javier Milei in Argentina. And it's either going to be somebody like that or somebody that is a counter to that. And that's what I see happening in Peru. And I think the United States will back Trump, will 100% back a Milei type of candidate, whether it's Keiko Fujimori, who's more of a neoliberal type of candidate, but she will sell her entire soul to be whatever she needs to be. Or if there is another Milei or Nayib Bukele type of candidate that can exist and take over, because there's like 40 candidates, they're going to go against somebody that's the opposite. And whoever is really left in that is going to take the presidency. And if Trump gets his way of putting in a candidate that is a Milei type of candidate, he will have taken the majority of South America. One of the richest countries when it comes to resources is Peru. Yeah. And with that, of course, with Brazil coming as well, if they can take Brazil, if they can take Peru, they will have the entire Amazon. And when that happens, it will be total devastation. That is the Amazon are the lungs of the entire world. And you know that they seek to privatize the Amazon. When we were in Brazil, we talked about this, about Nestle and what they've been doing in the Amazon and the fight that has been ongoing there. Lula, for all his faults, has actually put a hold on that. The moment he goes away, and if a far right candidate enters, all that shit's going to go out the window. Any sort of regulations, any sort of stoppage to the corporate sector, all of that will be gone. And they will have had access to oil, access to the Amazon in Brazil and Peru and Chile, Argentina, Bolivia has gone right, Ecuador. The only one left would be Colombia, and that's also up for an election this year. Basically, the entirety of the survival of South America is in jeopardy this year to go to the far right. And if that happens, it will be very dark times for the people of the region. And I'm not exaggerating, but that's like the plan.
Which is why it's important to, thank you. Well, it's important to get us to Peru this year. So we're going to show our Give, Send, Go now and show some of the people who shared. These are the things we want to do. There's a lot to unpack. There's a lot to figure out. I would say that the Chinese that are trying to get in there, right, are probably going to give the Peruvians a better bang for their buck for the lithium than the Americans that really want to extract it for pennies on the dollar. This is a race for the fourth industrial revolution. Who can get further ahead? So let's show some of the comments, by the way. And by the way, I'm going to put this comment up first, though. Hold on a second. This comment: Cuba was the only country to send help to South Africa to free itself from the apartheid. The U.S. called for freedom fighters in South Africa. Terrorist, right? But that is true. There's a video of what's his name? The leader of FAM you talked to is, I think, his son of Africa. Mandela, right? Mandela is talking to Castro, saying, "Thank you. You need to come for what he's done." But this is the reason why we're gonna get on the ground right now. I mean, there's talks. Fam and I was like, "Fam, you should get over to Argentina with all the protests going on. I should get over to Tennessee with the city councils erupting about what's going on with the ICE detention centers there's a lot of stuff going on. We need your help, guys. This is great. Since the show started, we've made a few bucks. But go ahead, share the link, everybody out there. Let's do that. If you cannot donate, right? If you cannot donate any money right now, do us a favor. Go on there, click that big share box and share the dickens out of it. Let's get some shares up today. But let's recognize some of the people. We just shared the link in the chat. Let's recognize some of the people, Jayme, in the on the boards. We can do that. So here's anonymous giver 3 days ago. No, we were supposed to do from 1 day ago. So not that from Chris. We were supposed to start from Chris. We read this the other day. With deep gratitude, your integrity, your hard work, and demonstrating humanity. What's the next one? From a day ago, Chris Allegre. I think Chris is an old-time watcher. I remember that name, $15. Thank you so much, Chris Allegre. It's always appreciated on the wire. What else we got next? Anonymous giver, $50. Thank you so much. Whoever this anonymous guy is or girl is, thank you so much. You are so kind. You keep on giving it. We appreciate that. The best, $17. $17. Thank you for all you do. Know the best. You are the best. Thank you for the $17. The next, Kayla Smith, $250. Wow, Kayla, hitting it hard. That was a day ago. Thank you for your great work. Thank you for your great donation. That means so much to us. It is always appreciated on the Truth Wire. What else we got? Anonymous, this person, fam. I got to meet this anonymous person. Please keep doing what you do. Is Rockfin still your preference for a monthly subscription, or is Patreon better? Have you considered locals? Thanks. We have considered locals, but right now go to our Patreon. We're gonna re-energize our Patreon, get some stuff going over there. One of our producers, Gabrielle Freedom, has been talking about ways we can get back to that Patreon and make it juicy again. So we're gonna figure that out. We're gonna, of course, work with Jayme, who's more than just an engineer. He's also a producer. So we'll talk to some people. Maybe we'll have Fred Edwards get his advice in there, or anybody else. There's some cool people that are going to be donating. Watch, fam, you're going to see some cool names up here as we go along. Margaret Villa, how you doing? Margaret, I don't remember if you're Mexicano or Filipino. I know that there's always Filipino food when you're around there. I don't know, maybe your husband's Filipino or you're Filipino, but we love you, Margaret Villa. Either way, for years, I've always stayed abreast in the political arena, and I've always learning from you too. Margaret, let me tell you something. The first time we met, I think it was at a water protest about privatizing water in LA. And we were out there, we were talking, and I know you were running for office, I think. And I was very critical. And I'm like, Margaret, I spoke to somebody who was working with you. I'm like, see the way you spoke and Margaret speak? She's got to get better with her speech and her presentation. Now I see you, I hear you, I watch you. I cannot wait to be at a protest and stand aside with you and speak with you. You've come so far yourself. I love your TikTok. I love what you talk about. Margaret Villa, you are amazing. Thank you so much for the $50. It is always appreciated. And let's get together and you can feed me some good lumpia. I believe that's a good Filipino egg roll of sorts when we get together. Next one. Rebel in the Empire, fam. $100. Love your work. Best wishes. That was a day ago. Thank you, Rebel in the Empire. That means so much to us. You are really helping us out and help keeping it going. The next one. Natalie Williams, fam. I told you there'd be some cool names out there 8 minutes ago. Best of luck. Cross those fingers. Been trying to spread the love around. Sorry it can't be more. Are you kidding me, Natalie Williams? We love you.
Thank you.
Old school. Yes, thank you. Hanging around, says Teddy KGB about the guy. He has alligator blood. Natalie Williams has alligator blood. She is strong. She is awesome. She's an old schooler. We love it. We love you, Natalie. And if we got another one, Daniela Modus Cutter, $10. Make you holler 7 minutes ago. Thanks for your honest journalism.
Thank you, Daniela.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you for your honest opinions as well. We do appreciate it. Hit the refresh button. Let's see if it went up. 22. And refresh. 2213. Guys, if you can't donate, help us out. Share the thing. I think there was a comment about pasta or something, Jayme, right? To respect pasta, we'll be sitting down shortly to have some rigatoni bolognese with salchicha. Is that what it's? Salsica?
Yeah.
Is he saying salchicha? Or
Yeah.
Salsica. I guess that's the Italian. I'm speaking Spanish over here.
It's
I will
no,
be
it's
watching the live stream, so it's a win for everybody. Fam, let me
the two C's together are CH.
see what that is, fam. That is what I had and I made for Mama last night. That is a pasta alla prosciutto. What it was is a friend of mine, my friend, he's probably watching the show, Mikey Santucci, who is also the lawyer for the Convo Couch, right, with Sal. Nice and big over there. They have all this prosciutto. So the other day we went and we sent our love and our tributes and our respects to what's his name? Robert Duvall, who died, fam. Robert Duvall was Tom Hagen in The Godfather, one of the open scenes. He worked for Michael Corleone. He wasn't a wartime consigliere, but he was a great lawyer. He passed away. So I went over to my friend's house and we had some prosciutto, we had some supersad, we had some cheese, we had some vino. I had a nice cigar. It was great. All the prosciutto he gave me, I made this pasta right here, fam. So I had a tomato sauce already made. And what I did was I took up prosciutto and I sliced it up nice and thin. And I seared it in the pan. I have the whole video. I'm going to probably cut it and release it. And I seared that prosciutto in the pan, fam. This is like one of the most expensive meats of the Italian sliced pork. Prosciutto is one of the most expensive. When I was young, I asked my mom, "Hey, Ma, can you make me prosciutto to take to school?" And my mom was like, "Richie, you hear your son, the king, the fancy, the prince? He wants to have prosciutto to take to school." Shut up, you get salami. And that was it. I went to Genoa salami, but prosciutto is nice. So I sauteed the prosciutto in the pan. I hit it with the tomato sauce. Then I added some heavy whipping cream, some good Parmesan cheese, mixed it together. I had my rigatone on the side, mixed it all together, and that's what you see. It's like a pink sauce, but it has the saltiness of the prosciutto and the crispiness of the prosciutto. It's just beautiful. My mother ate the whole thing. I also had some meatballs left over, served some meatballs on the side. So that is my pasta dish for the day. Thank you very much for the guy who's watching and eating pasta, fam. Guys, go ahead 1 second. Just go over to the Give, Send, Go and share. Go ahead, fam.
Now we all know that pasta will be useful during the zombie apocalypse. And this is what I always think about. Like, how will people around me be useful for the zombie apocalypse? Because pasta can cook. And man, during the zombie apocalypse, that is forever useful. You know, intellectuals, we're not useful for the zombie apocalypse. Nope. What are we going to do? Well, what are we going to do? We're going to, I guess, try to rebuild society. But other than that, like, I don't know, you know?
Fam, I tried to teach you how to cook when you lived with me, but I couldn't get you in the kitchen. I got you in the kitchen when it was time to eat, but when I was making stuff, you weren't there. You look, that's it, gone. Now, what are you going to do during the zombie apocalypse? You're going to say, I'm your best friend and act like you can cook with me so we can keep you around. No? No. I know, Wild Rose. I'm waiting for that cooking show, too, as well. And maybe one day we'll get it done. I'll put some cameras up on my new kitchen when I get into my new kitchen and I can put stuff up. This one I'm going to put up because I did make a little video. I got a good shot of it. So I'm going to cut it together and I'm going to show you how to make prosciutto alla pasta. There's a name for it. I forgot what the Sicilians call it. But that's the really good stuff there. I mean, I wish you could taste that because it doesn't taste like a normal pink sauce. The saltiness of that prosciutto made that dish amazing. Parmesan cheese, crushed red pepper on mine, not my mama. And, of course, a little basil. I put basil on all my pasta. Fam likes basil. She likes all the greens, so it's good.
That's right. Yeah, now I'm hungry, too. Thank you, pasta.
Well, I'm intermittent fasting, so I'm not eating until the show's over. I got my show at 4 o'clock, so I need a little time to eat in between. So let's get going on the next one.
Yeah, so this will help you lose some of that appetite. Because AOC is back and AOC's little minions are back defending her. And I took a walk down memory lane yesterday because I was so angry that people are still buying her bullshit. But what I did notice was there is a little bit of a learning experience that I've seen on X. Like before, whenever we went after AOC, I used to only see a few people. Most people were saying, oh, you're being too harsh on her. Now, 5 years later, 6 years later, we're seeing people shift. And every year, you know, it's gotten worse. And now when some, you know, poor, ignorant soul went out to defend AOC, you can look at the comments that were said. So if you actually click on this, the first one, winter, click on wait, which one did I do first? The very first one. It should be this first tweet is anyone who's honest and has half a brain cell, that one. Yeah. So I said, you know, AOC is not against regime change, right? Because the claim is she said she's against regime change, she's against imperialism. And I says, this is ridiculous. So this person, if you click on her little X profile, she says, tankies are mad that AOC called Maduro a dictator. MAGA is mad that AOC is against regime change. She can't win.
Good.
So she's saying that because tankies, which is what she calls anybody criticizing AOC, are mad that she called him Maduro a dictator, and MAGA is mad that she is against regime change, that AOC must be doing something right because everybody's mad at her. But the thing is, we're mad at her because
regime change, ma'am. Is she against regime change?
Yeah. Of course not. And she's in the same breath that she was talking about being against imperialism. She literally advocated for the U.S. to interfere in Russia, for the NATO-Ukraine war. She advocated for Donald Trump to have gotten out the entirety of the government, the Chavista government, and went after him from the right. Like, from the right. She's saying he's not right-wing enough and didn't take out the whole government. So this is, and if you go to this person's profile, you'll see she has AOC. I don't even know if they're a real person, to be honest. You know, everywhere, AOC, blah, blah, blah. And this is the thing, like, we're talking about people who either, we don't know if they're real or not. We don't know if they just haven't been around, but suddenly we're seeing all these like AOC defenders pop up, right? And so that took me down some memory lane of really highlighting, you know, what AOC is. And it really made me think, like, on the next tweet, right, that 95% of our Congress people are really dumb. And it's not just AOC. I mean, you can count with your fingers on who has a brain in Congress. And I'm not just talking about book smarts. I'm talking about, you know, knowledgeable on geopolitics, knowledgeable on anything that is feasible, because you're a congressperson. It's not just about your district. It's about your district, but you're voting on legislation that affects the entire world, right? And so the next tweet, I said, every day I think, holy shit, 95% of our reps are so stupid. When a congresswoman, a Dem favorite for president of the United States, doesn't know Venezuela's north of the equator and can't discuss the most basic foreign policy issue, it's obvious they're useless characters performing a theater show of democracy. Fam, I want to ask you this. Do you think it does, like, I genuinely think people are specifically chosen because they're stupid, because they're not going to look into this stuff, because they don't have the desire to look at foreign policy. That's why they represent us. That's why they're in Congress. You're not going to have somebody that's like a foreign policy, geopolitical expert when you should. Yeah.
So are you asking me, do you think that the mechanism for the ruling class or the elites, Jayme, you want to move? Thank you. The ruling class or the elites is a mechanism in which they pick people who aren't too bright? Do you think that's one of the reasons, or is that the question? Because here's the thing I think they choose on. I don't think that as much as a factor as whether or not these people have a tendency to be a sociopath, that these people are narcissistic. Like, I think that is the prevailing mechanism in which they choose, and then they kind of buy into them or feed them whatnot. See if they'll play ball. Man, at the end of the day, a narcissist person who thinks about himself will spew any bullshit they can if it's going to elevate them, their status. So they sell them this bill of goods that, hey man, you play ball with us and we'll play ball with you, and we'll make sure that you are famous and you are, talked upon. I do believe that their brains, as far as how smart and their IQ are, is not as much as a factor as whether or not they have any principles or character. If they have any principles or character whatsoever, and there's a chance they might flip, that you won't be chosen. And I think the social engineers, the people who work for the ruling class, who understand people within society, and the social engineers who pick these people are the same ones who know how to manipulate, society. They understand that, and like I said, AOC, when we showed her talking the other day, this is her chance. This is her tryout right now. She is progressing. She is able to talk about foreign policy a little bit. Smart people who understand foreign policy immediately catch her and say, what an idiot. But for the most people to the mainstream, especially the mainstream synthetic left, and it is a synthetic left, it's not a real left in America, the social issues that she virtue signals about are what they care about most. So this is her trying to catch up. And that's why she was able to put something out, in Cuba, and she had to take it down, right? I mean, you're going to talk about
it was
that,
years ago.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's that she was still learning. And once again, the left, the synthetic left, they don't really stand for anything. In other words, the conservatives that come to power, the ones who are being bought off by the ruling class, they can actually fight for a lot of the things they put out there, because unfortunately the synthetic right, or the low informed right, or the shallow right, or whatever you want to call them, they do care about immigration, and they do care about pro-choice. So they can go forth with that, right? The left has to be very covert, not overt. So they're still trying to grab there and filling out what's going on. They're trying to take every advantage of the ICE situation, right, to better themselves. But a lot of the things they talk about, their imperialism, they can say, like AOC says, I'm an anti-imperialist, but she has to be an imperialist on the back end. So it's very different. The Democrats have to be so covert about what they do, because they can't actually push the things they want to push other than the LGBT stuff, right? They can go ahead and push that because their followers are cool with that, and the religious right, they're ridiculous. At the end of the day, as we still go into this, it's not about, trans people. It's about the fact that their religion, they want to bring their religion into, into their politics. And they really don't like gay people. They don't believe, I think there's a lot more accepting, but at the end of the day, they're still going to go along with their religious beliefs. So AOC and the Democrats have a much harder task than the Republicans. The Republicans can be phony and actually push for the bullshit things they like, right? But the Democrats do not. And they have a totally different objective, and they have a totally different way about how to push their things, because they have to do so many things in the background, fam. They have to hope that their base doesn't pay attention to actual policy and pays attention to their virtue signals.
Well, they make it harder on themselves, because if they actually were genuine about what they're talking about, then they wouldn't have to. It wouldn't be so complicated. Then they would actually oppose what the Republicans are saying. They would actually be the party of the working people, but they're not. I don't. When I say smart or dumb, I don't mean IQ wise. I mean in terms of, because to me, intelligence isn't measured by IQ. It's not measured by just one way. I mean people who are robotic, people who take orders, people who are yes people, who are going to just sit down, take an order, and do it without questioning. The world runs with these people. I call them NPCs, and any gamer will know what I'm talking about, and so what I mean by that is they don't think for themselves. You can be there's a lot of people in Congress that have degrees from Ivy League schools, but I don't consider them intelligent. I consider them idiots, because they don't think for themselves. They think in what they're told. They don't question authority. They don't question anything. So they live in this ignorant bliss where they can just, go about thinking that they're making some sort of difference, that they're smart, that they got a good paying job. But that's what I mean by dumb. Like, it's very a certain type of individual, I should say, these NPCs, people who don't have a mind of their own, who don't formulate their own opinions. And I think that's a huge part of who's hired for positions like this, for businesses, to just be people who follow orders. And that's what society teaches us, is how to be good people who follow orders, who don't think for themselves. The more you are like that, the easier is life is for you in life. Just an airplane. That's why.
I was like, what the?
I don't know why there's been a lot of airplanes lately. It's really weird. Like military type of airplanes.
I got that here
Um,
too.
so on that note, but I do agree with you that they seek out narcissists and
Yeah.
sociopaths and psychopaths, but also those people inevitably seek power. So it's kind of like the two morph together and then they combine. And the CIA also seeks out people with certain qualities and characteristics. So even if you have somebody that joined the CIA, managed to join the CIA and became a whistleblower, they still have a lot of those qualities that the intelligence apparatus seeks. They're not going to seek somebody that's super empathetic, that's super humane. Every now and then somebody will sneak in, but ultimately there is some of that narcissistic tendency, some of that, sociopathic kind of like mentality, and that's why I always say, once an agent, always an agent. For the most part, I don't trust anybody that's been in the agency, even if they are a whistleblower. I have, because there's a certain type of personality, and it's not to do, you're right, with like the most IQ. It's more to do with how easily they're willing to give up for XYZ, and that's
Ray McGovern seems pretty good though. I like Ray. So
okay.
Uncle Ray. What else we got next?
So we got Emma Vigilant.
Oh, fam's favorite left synthetic left U.S. left political progressive commentator, fam.
In 10 years, this woman has literally not changed anything. Like, she's absolutely the same idiot that she's been for the last decade. So this is what she says, right? When people went after her AOC, she said, this isn't criticism of leaving the regime intact. It's a statement of fact. And so she calls, Maduro's government the regime. Love to see the right-wing psyops. Now everybody is a right-wing psyop.
Yeah.
About AOC are already working on the dumbest online leftists who think she's a nag or whatever. Nobody called her a nag. Who called her a nag? We're pointing out her imperialist position. Chomsky cozying up to Epstein shows misogyny isn't confined to the right. So I don't understand. What does Chomsky have to do with AOC's failures of, like, on her own accord? She's literally criticizing Donald Trump for not being fascist enough to take out and kill an entire government. In the same breath, she's saying she's against imperialism. That's what people are criticizing. People aren't criticizing her for having an ovary. People aren't criticizing her for being Puerto Rican. People aren't criticizing her for anything to do with what Emma is talking about, anything misogynistic. People don't like her, including women of color. Because she's
brown women, black and brown women. I don't like women of color. I like black or brown women. Okay.
Because some people aren't brown or black. I guess
it's funny because some people. So a black guy told me, he goes, "Can you please stop saying man of color? Can you say black man? I'm a black man." I'm like, okay. I'm confused at that, but it doesn't make a difference. I think what's important though, Sam, is that any criticism of AOC, whether it be from the left or the right, will automatically be you're a racist, you're nagging her, you don't like her personally, you're jealous of her, you can't deal with a Latin-speaking woman. It will be all those things. The weaponization of the synthetic left in America is still here, and it's coming back, and we're going to get a heavy dose of it as they continue to try to make this switch and this change moving forward. Meaning the ruling class, because I do believe that they're going to be going – I do believe that we had Trump, Republican, one term, Biden, one term, Democrat. Trump, another term, Republican. We're going to get a Democrat because things are so polarized to an extent. And it's fresh on the people's mind that, like Nico House said to us, we got the worst portion. We got the worst Donald Trump we can get, way worse than the first term because we had the awful Joe Biden. Now we have this awful Trump to swing it the other way. Now Gavin Newsom can do what he did. Remember when Gavin Newsom beat back his, what do you call it when you go to remove him? Not the impeachment, but they had when you voted for it in California. Oh my God. When you vote to remove him.
Well, it's like
Recall,
impeachment,
the
but it's-
recall. They had his
Oh.
recall. He won his recall. He came forth. He goes, people didn't say no, just no to Gavin Newsom getting removed. They said no to this and yes to that. And he used that recall, that victory of the recall, to push through a lot of COVID policies to try to get them through. So when it's fresh on the mind, I think the ruling class understands, the social engineers stand. It's like, why wait 8 years of this stuff? Just do it every 4 years so we can get a drastic change, because people on the other side want an immediate change, and they'll let authoritarian policies go through because they're so angry from the team sports, the opposite team that pushed through the policies that they think are racist, wrong, or whatever the case may be. So they're going to go for a Democrat, I predict, and it's going to be Gavin Newsom, maybe AOC vice president, fam. I don't know, but be ready for it. It's going to happen.
So, yeah, 100% they're going to go for a Democrat, and AOC is one of the ones that they're going for. So I wanted to take down a walk down memory lane and go back to 2018 with an interview AOC gave, where she said she's not an expert on geopolitics. And here's the thing, a lot of people have grown accepting of that. And now, even today, Pasta's, I don't know, being very kind. I don't think she has improved much at all. I think she's improved how to manipulate things, but her knowledge, I don't think has improved.
That's the improvement, fam. The ability to manipulate things, because once again, the majority of the leftists in this country, the synthetic left or whatever, or the independents, don't understand foreign policy. You can be stupid in foreign. We started this show for two reasons, right? Like, we wanted to interview grassroots candidates that weren't getting interviewed, but we wanted to teach the progressives foreign policy because they were so lost on it, fam. They were so naive to it. Well, that's still going on.
They haven't learned because they don't need to, because they don't need to. And Matt Duss is her foreign policy advisor, and he's literally advised Sanders as well. He is a Center for American Progress, like awful warmonger type of foreign policy. He's got some of the most imperialist foreign policy whatsoever. So of course, yeah, so let's just go back to 2018 AOC. We're talking 8 years ago. And 8 years ago, I could run circles around her foreign policy. Like, imagine now. Oh my God, I was such a young Padawan then. Now, I'm on my way to becoming part of the dark side at this rate. Let's see. Let's listen.
But I am, of course, the dynamic there in terms of geopolitics and the war in the Middle East is very different than people expressing their First Amendment right to protest.
Well, yes, but I also think that what people are starting to see, at least in the occupation of Palestine, is just an increasing crisis of humanitarian condition. And that to me is just where I tend to come from on this issue.
You use the term the occupation of Palestine. What did you mean by that?
I think what I meant is like the settlements that are increasing in some of these areas and places where Palestinians are experiencing difficulty in access to their housing and homes.
Do you think you can expand on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd also just, I am not the expert on geopolitics on this.
Fam, bad choice in shoes. They make her, when she's too skinny for those shoes, they make her look freaking clunky. Go ahead.
Fam, okay, so I understand this was 2018, but even in 2018, you just want to see it in Congress. You have to be able to talk about these issues. And she couldn't even talk about any of these issues that we were running circles around her then, not in Congress. And what I'm saying is, if an everyday person, a journalist, or an everyday person at that point, we had just started our show then, right? We started in 2017, end of 2017, but we really didn't get on YouTube till 2018. And so we had just started our show then. We were actually not against her at that point. We were kind of sympathetic to her at that point. We were like, well, maybe she's nervous. She's trying, But at that point, we should have been like, she should know better. And we said she should know better, but we were sympathetic with her. We were like, maybe, we shouldn't have been, because you know what, if you're getting into that position, you should have your shit together. You should know about geopolitics. You should at least take a crash course in what's happened in the last 75 years between Israel and Palestine, even if you got like the shitty crash course. And she has improved her like mannerism, her ability to project, her ability to like talk, but it's performative in terms of her knowledge of the issues. She hasn't had to improve because she's got people around her that do the reading for her. And in my opinion, that's a detriment to a congressperson, because they just get all these papers and they get told, just look at this and look at that. I would switch that up, like if I were a congressperson, I would look at things myself and then see what I'm being given. And the problem is that they're not given enough time to read a lot of these bills that are thousands and thousands of pages. Like, so it's a whole systemic thing. And the thing is, I don't buy that AOC is dumb or that she didn't know what she was doing, because she worked for Ted Kennedy. She went to Africa. She's had the CIA. This is why I call her the AOCIA. She's had the background of being an agent or being chosen. And in the whole bartender thing, really appeared like a shtick. Afterwards, she was able to cosplay that she lived in the Bronx and she did this and that. She lived in the suburbs, and the right used this as an attack and said, oh, this and that. They didn't really focus on, on the reality that she was just cultivated and placed there. So, I think it's worth reminding people where she came from. She didn't come from this unknown bartender. Before she was a bartender, she worked for Ted Kennedy.
I don't even think she was a bartender. I think they just wanted some shots of her wiping down a bar to make her look like a regular person. So.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, so it's all fake is what I'm saying. It's all theater. The next thing, fam, remember when she was supporting Biden?
Oh,
right?
God, do I remember.
And she was, so this is when Biden was talking about the climate crisis, blah, blah, blah. And I said, supporting Biden in 2024 after he's gotten in this failed proxy war in Ukraine and is funding Israel's genocide in Gaza. So the U.S. is falling apart economically and socially. We're still falling apart economically and socially. Makes you an existential sellout clown. What a pathetic, spineless coward you turned out to be, AOCIA. And by the way, I said I'm taking credit for calling her AOCIA first years ago. So by the way, now people are calling her AOCIA. I'm kind of proud. I am proud of that, because I genuinely do think that she does come from, she was picked as a sort of like intelligence asset.
Who's the dude on the right? Is that what's his name from Murky, the senator that she supported?
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah,
I believe that's
with
him,
the sunglasses. Look at this. Genocide Joe. There you are. She ain't against the genocide.
And this is this next one, fam, is the one I really wanted to focus on, because it pissed me off so much when I saw a lot of people defending her, saying she's an anti-imperialist, giving me like the same talking points of 10 years ago. This is the one you wanted to show earlier, and I wanted to save it for now because it's important. So I said, incredible. Some of you easily forget how much of an imperialist this fake-ass Vende Patria is, and I'll explain what Vende Patria is in a minute. But people like AOC manufactured consent for what is happening in Cuba, and she did. So this is July 15th, 2021, right? And AOC had deleted this tweet when she saw the reactions, because she got like pummeled by a lot of people for this, because she had written, let's go Cubans. Let's go stand up, Cubans, and protest. She said, we see Cubans stand up and protest for their rights like never before. We stand in solidarity with them, and we condemn the actions, the anti-democratic actions of the leadership of President Diaz-Canel. So she had written a long ass like tweet about that. And remember, Pasta, I don't know if you remember, but we read it live on our show. And we read her whole statement live. And she basically had said that it was a hard to follow statement. So then she deleted it and reposted it. And she said, "We stand in solidarity with the Cuban people and condemn the suppression of the media, speech, and protests." Do you guys remember these protests? These were U.S. manufactured regime change protests where there was like 8 people at the protest, and the U.S. was trying to do SOS Cuba and trying to get people to like, and this was happening under the, the auspices of a lot of the just pro regime change push by the U.S. at this point. And she called for the U.S. embargo and the Trump era restrictions contributing to the suffering of Cuba, but we're backing these protests that were entirely NATO funded and fraudulent. And she said, "We are seeing Cubans rise up in protest for the rights like never before. We stand in solidarity with them. We condemn the anti-democratic actions led by President Diaz-Canel. The suppression of the media, speech, and protests are all a gross violation of civil rights. We also named the U.S. Constitution to Cuban suffering our 60-year-old embargo last month. Once again, the UN voted overwhelmingly to call the United States to lift its embargo on Cuba. The embargo is absurdly cruel, and like to many other U.S. policies targeting Latin Americans, the cruelty is the point. I outright reject the Biden administration's defense of the embargo. It is never acceptable for us to use cruelty as a point of leverage against everyday people." But it's both-siding imperialist bullshit, as Misty says it there, right? This is what irritates me about AOC and pretty much about anybody that does this both-siding bullshit. It's the same thing as saying Assad was a brutal dictator, but, or Maduro is a brutal dictator, but like it's the same both-sided shit that allows some people to think that she's better than Donald Trump and the right wing. But really, at the end of the day, you get the same freaking outcome. You get the same outcome because she's manufacturing consent for a lot of the fake bullshit protests. The same in Iran, by the way, the same in anywhere else where we put out these NATO-funded protests in an effort to promote regime change. And what do we have now? Years later, we have the Republicans pretty much doing the same thing, but more aggressively, just more overtly, right? As we've been saying, they're more overtly doing this. And what do you have? You just have AOC agreeing that the government is bad and they should do something else. I mean, there's no opposition. It's just the same thing. And it's infuriating because we see who the Democrats are. We see who Kamala Harris is. We see who the Trumps and these Marco Rubio is for who they are. It's very apparent. But with somebody like AOC, what irritates the hell out of me is she literally weaponizes this both-siding bullshit to get people to fall for what she's saying, not paying attention to the policies that are actually enacted. And I think that is so much more nefarious, so much more dishonest and worse than somebody just being flat out open.
Guys, all the way to help the show are down below in the links. The way we could support us. Fam is just bringing it to the table today when it comes to AOC, because I think we have to pay attention to what the Democrats are going to swing back in our favor. Like I said, you look at a lot of these lines right now, you understand. I mean, I look at the betting lines. I mean, not just because I'm Italian from New York and I was part of that whole culture, but they can tell you a lot about what's going to happen and what is happening. Right now, she is the favorite. Right now, one of the favorites out there. In some betting lines, some she's second or third. She's definitely in the top 3 of all of them to be the next representative of the Democratic presidency for the Democrats. I mean, so this is something we have to pay attention to, and we have to pay attention to what they are coming at us with. Fam, is that it for the section?
Nope. We got some more.
Yeah, all right, let's do it.
Yeah, so quickly, this one I think this one's gonna piss you off. Do you remember when we were taken down, when we were
after the letter? Yeah,
so this is her letter. Okay, I'm gonna
the
remind you
day after this we got demonetized.
This is in 2021. As we speak, right-wing operatives with millions of followers on social media are spreading flat-out lies and misleading information about Alexandria. But with your help, we can force Twitter and Facebook to take action and enforce their own rules. what's so frustrating about these attacks is that once the truth comes out, so few people get to hear it. Hundreds of thousands or potentially millions of people will have already seen or shared the misleading tweets or fake news articles. We need your help. Here's what you can do to help us combat this campaign of disinformation and others.
Make it bigger, Jayme.
Scan your social media to find posts with this misleading information, especially those using the trending hashtag. Don't tweet any hashtags yourself because we don't want to spread them further. Identify any posts that are threatening or harassing and use the built-in report features to flag them for moderators. Facebook and Twitter both have built-in tools for reporting posts and tweets that break the rules.
The day after this, we got our demonetization. So what's the date of that again, fam? Because we can tell you this is the day after this letter came out. It was like 8 of us, right, who lost our monetization. I think everybody's got
February 3rd, 2021.
February 3rd?
2021.
So this is 2026, right? So it's going to be 5 years now?
It's 5 years, yeah.
It's been 5 years. All right, so 5 years now. 5 years, no monetization. There you go. There you go.
You guys can see why we literally can't stand Alexandra, why we're talking about her, right? The other one of AOC's greatest hits that we can't let her forget was in 2021, and also recently, by the way, she also voted to fund the Iron Dome this last year alone. Remember when she changed her no vote to present for the Iron Dome?
The Iron Dome, after getting a talking to from Nancy Pelosi, if I remember.
I said this is performative as AOC just changed her no vote to present for the Iron Dome, giving more money to Israel and funding more imperialist attacks on Palestinians. This is before the genocide in Palestine. AOC and much of the squad helped bring about this genocide. They did nothing to stop it. They only cosplayed that they were going to do something to stop it. And this is why when people bring her up as a potential good alternative to Donald Trump, especially people with Palestine on their profile pictures with watermelons, with thinking that they're anti-Zionist. How do you think you're an anti-Zionist when you're promoting this person that voted for the Iron Dome? Do you know how much the Iron Dome has been used to kill Palestinians and people in Gaza? Like how do you even put her and anti-Zionism in the same sentence? I mean, it's absolutely disgusting. People have such short-term memories that they forget. And she voted for it too. She's been supportive of it. Okay. And she constantly. And the other thing as we're going through this is the January 6th bullshit. Right, that a lot of her pro-censorship stances have come from the January 6th stuff. Yeah. She's threatened so many people with censorship, threatened to go after anybody that said anything mean against her. And in 2023, she said CNN lost control of its town hall to again be manipulated into platforming election disinformation, defenses of January 6th, and a public attack on a sexual abuse victim. I mean, election disinformation, the fact that our elections aren't fair. Like, she should be the number one person promoting that because she was almost kept out. But because she was particularly allowed in, right, because she was chosen, of course she's going to talk about election disinformation. Everybody knows, if you're anybody right now that's been following our work, you know we don't have fair elections in the United States. Yeah. You know that. So her saying election disinformation is the same language we saw used during COVID, during the elections, during January 6th. She was advocating for more surveillance, more censorship. And now she's crying about the censorship on the left, but she was been promoting censorship of people on the right.
Yeah.
And I think the very last thing is the Mexico, by the way, I wanted to highlight Claudia Sheinbaum, who I think a lot of people wish AOC was, right? So I'll go ahead and play the video and I'll read what she says.
En el comunicado se dice que
The statement
reconocemos
said we
la
recognize
búsqueda de la paz en
the
cualquier
pursuit of
espacio que se
peace
abra.
You gotta
wherever.
lower the
Pero en
volume,
este
Jayme.
caso, cuando se trata particularmente,
Start it over from the beginning. Lower the volume. There you go.
en el comunicado se dice que
The statement
reconocemos
says we
la
recognize
búsqueda de la
the
paz en cualquier
pursuit of
espacio que
peace
se abra.
wherever it may
Pero en
happen.
este caso, cuando se
But
trata
in this case, when
particularmente
it
de la
specifically
paz en
concerns
el Medio
peace
Oriente, Palestina,
in the Middle East,
dado que
Palestine,
nosotros reconocemos a
since we
Palestina como un
recognize
Estado,
Palestine as a
pues
state,
es importante la
it's
participación de
important
ambos
that they
estados,
participate,
Israel y
right,
Palestina. Y no
in the
está planteado
participation of
así
Israel Palestine.
en el
And that's not
encuentro.
how the meeting is set
Se
up.
está planteando que vayamos
So
como
we're proposing
observadores.
that we go as
Entonces, probablemente
observers.
vaya el
So we'll
embajador
probably
de
send our UN
Naciones
ambassador
Unidas, nuestro embajador en Naciones Unidas de observador.
as an
En
observer.
el comunicado
Okay,
se dice que
so she said something that a lot of people haven't said out loud. You know, we've heard things like Russia giving billions to Trump's Board of Peace, which I think was not was retracted, I think, by some people. We've heard, you know, whether certain countries are supporting Trump's Board of Peace, but nobody has really talked about what this Board of Peace is, and we know, right, that it's not a Board of Peace, that it's only an Israeli Zionist-led concoction to only have their desires heard, but the Palestinians are kept out of the entire process. So how is it a Board of Peace? And she's saying that in very diplomatic terms. She's saying that so we're not going to support that, because if you're talking about peace, you need to have their voice represented, and we recognize Palestine as a state. So we need to, like, if that's what you're saying, then it has to be this way. So I wanted to highlight that, because AOC and Claudia Sheinbaum, like I've said before, she's not a revolutionary. She's not, you know, this red sort of communist or crazy Marxist that a lot of the right makes her out to be. No, she's you know, she's like a progressive. AOC doesn't even come close to being that. Not even half of that. So if, you know, for all the people that think like she's a good option, your expectations, your desires, your bar is way too low. You need to aim higher than that. A sellout anti-imperialist. And Vente Patria is Spanish, by the way, for a Latina or Latino who sells out to this colonial mindset, who basically, you look at Malay supporters, you look at Marco Rubio, that's a Vende Patria. You'd rather sell yourself out, not understand you will never be looked on as an equal. There's a lot of Vende Patrias here in Lima and Peru. It's a lot of them. They'll sell themselves out to foreign capital.
Kind of like a Gusano.
Yeah, it's kind of like a Gusano.
Very
I
much
said
kind of
Sino
a Zen.
or Marco Rubio for that definition. They're right there. Vende Patrias. That's what they are. They're willing to sell themselves out for the money of you know, U.S. or Western interests. So, yeah, that's that.
Guys, I want to show you a real quick picture out there and a reason why. And then, Jayme, get ready to show the Give, Send, Go. And this is why it's important. This is what's going on in Argentina, right? They just approved the 12-day work day. I'm doing the volume up and down so we don't get
Copyrighted.
we don't get hit with the copyright. But you can see that's what's going on. And this is the reason why we have this Give, Send going on. You know, not only do we want to go to elections, but we want to go where the action's at, where we can get some reporting, we can get on the ground, we can actually talk to the people that are there. Right now, if we, you know, me and Fee are talking about, hey, why don't you go to Argentina? Because she's really close, so maybe she can do that. Well, why don't I go over to Tennessee? Because I'm pretty close to Tennessee, or Cuba. I'd like to go to Cuba right now, but I don't know if I can get back in the States if I go. So that's a problem. And also, I would need a Spanish-speaking person to come with me. I wouldn't be able to go. I mean, there are a lot of people who speak English in Cuba, and that's kind of cool. And I'm sure there's a lot of people in Argentina who speak English as well. But that's what's going on right now. And that's why we're showing right now the Give, Send, Go. If you guys can help out, please, in any way, shape, or form. Jayme, if you can help out in any way, shape, or form, go ahead with this Give, Send, Go. If you can't give any dollars, give some shares. Hit that big share box and share away. But if you can give, go ahead and give. We definitely appreciate it here, guys. It's going to help us out. It's going to help us with our work. The results so far out of the gate have been amazing, but we want to keep it going because we definitely need the help, and we definitely want to get on the ground and do these things. If we reached a certain amount of money quickly, securing up, we're going to go to Peru. Obviously, fees already there. We're going to go to Peru to make sure we cover that election, everything and details there. But we would like to go to these other places. I think a trip over to Argentina right now would be awesome for Fee to go get that story, because there's a lot of people taking to the streets. And this is a big thing. This is going to lead to more American intervention. This is going to lead to Argentina. Cristina, right? She was the chosen one of sorts from the left. We had heard people from delegations in Nicaragua talk highly about Christine. But the West went along and actually framed her for certain things where she couldn't run, right?
Yeah.
And
the
she does have
on her.
Yeah, I mean, well, they didn't throw her in jail because in Argentina, you don't have to go to jail until after the appeal process takes place. So at least she's not in jail right now. And
yeah,
that's
but she was arrested and disqualified from running.
And and that's the thing. And that's why they ended up with Malay because of those things. So if you want to get us over there to help us out, go ahead, hit the like button, hit the share button, go over to the Give, Send, Go, give whatever you can. You can't give anything. Give us a share. Give us some help, what you can do, whatever you can do it. Thank you so much so far. We've read all the names for today. If we have any more names by the end of the show, we'll read them as well. Let's get into the next and the last subject, fam, because we are pushing time over here. It's been going long, but we'll try to get through this as quickly as we can. But it's important to talk about this. People think that with the ICE situation going on, the Democrats are taking full advantage of this whole situation, right? They're looking like the heroes. Gavin Newsom, what are they doing? You know, if you want to arrest me, Donald Trump, arrest me, but leave these people alone. ICE on the streets. He looked like a shining star almost, right? And I think that's what the Democrats are so happy that they have something to talk about, because they are the do-nothing party. They do nothing, right? They're there to just occupy the space where a real left party goes and push back against the Republicans. Their whole shtick is those guys are evil, racist pieces of shit, misogynist pieces of shit. Vote for us. We'll restore the dignity and the love American has and protect those most vulnerable, including our immigrants. But do they protect most of those immigrants out there? Here's Hillary Clinton. How could we miss you if you don't go away, Hillary? But here's Hillary Clinton talking about how many people Obama and her husband deported. Go ahead. Listen.
More people were deported under my husband and Barack Obama without killing American citizens and without putting children into detention camps than were in the first Trump term or this first year of Trump's second term.
Actually,
so I think it's important.
Wait.
Yeah.
Hildebeest told the truth?
Out loud. Hildebeest.
Damn.
She ain't a wildebeest. She's a Hildebeest. But fam, this is once again that more palpable type of foreign policy, that imperialist, that authoritarianism, right? Oh, we didn't have to put kids in detention centers. We just broke up their families and sent their fathers and mothers away, right? We didn't have to send Gestapos on the streets. We used other tactics like not allowing due process at the border, not granting asylum. We deported more people we're doing it in a nice way. It's almost like the foreign policy. We put the rainbow stickers and the hearts and the flags on the bombs. What we do, our form of imperialism, our form of authoritarianism, is much nicer than the Republicans' form, fam. They're still trying to campaign on Republican ideas to just make it more palatable for Democrats. Your thoughts?
I 100% agree. And I put in the chat how to say it.
I said palpable. Palatable. You can make fun of me about that. My Brooklyn tongue gets in the way. I got to wipe my spit because I couldn't say it. Palatable.
If you want, I'll do the Marissa Tomei.
It's Palpatine. It's Palpatine, like, you know, what do you call him?
Imagine
the Emperor,
you're a
Palpatine. Palatable.
Imagine you're a Dia.
Shut up. Don't start, fam. Well, in this section today, we are really going to make Jayme upset because Jayme hates seeing these videos when you see these things. Now, how much money are they going to spend? There's a report out there. They're going to spend X amount of dollars. What's going on is that they're going into certain states and they're buying up, the state is, huge, large warehouses. Come on, Jayme, go ahead and put it up. Huge, large warehouses, right? where, no, this is not it.
This one.
Power to the people. Yes, thank you. ICE plans to spend $38 billion to build more detention centers. $38 billion. Remember them talking about the Somali fraud, fam? By the way, I had a Somali guest on Pasta to go yesterday. It was awesome. Boyaje Faraj. He talked about it. He's a Somali American. But literally, just in, ICE plans to spend $38 billion to build more detention centers. So let's break it down. The U.S. bombs, invades, and steals the resources of the global South, which in turn forces people to migrate. Something we talk about all the time. Then once the people migrate to the U.S., the U.S. has an entire industry to detain, abuse, deport, and enrich U.S. corporations and billionaires. Profiting, I can't read the last sentence. Profiting off detaining and deporting people, the people you forced to migrate by destabilizing their countries is wicked work. Take a look. These are the things. They're paying top dollar for these big, giant warehouses. Click on it so you can see the whole picture. These big, giant warehouses, fam. Remember the Somali fraud? Oh, 1 billion, 9 billion, 19 billion, right? They're just spitballing. They're actually going to spend 38 billion. And by the way, I think it was 40 total Somalis have been charged now with fraud. 40 out of the 108,000 people, 108,000 Somalis that live there. I mean, it's ridiculous. But here, 38 billion. Isn't Donald Trump right now with this plan right now giving kickbacks to his friends, fam? Real estate brokers are going to make top dollar. They're paying top dollars for this. And they're going to be putting up these ICE detention centers everywhere, fam. And here's the question. You manufacture consent now, Republicans, to get Republican voters and supporters to support this. Yeah, you're rounding up the criminals. If they're here illegally, they're a criminal. Okay, breaking up families and stuff like that, right? But that's today. It's for the immigrant. Tomorrow, who are those detention centers for, fam?
Well, they're going to be for them, for the right-wing disinformation spreaders, right? That start questioning the next pandemic or the next thing that they start questioning. All people are going to be put there. And, this is exactly what we have in our prison system, the prison industrial complex that came before this, right? So you have people that were purposely, with the drug, the war on drugs, were purposely put there and taken off the streets, or were purposely put there because they don't want to actually fix society. So they ended up putting a lot of people in prison, making a lot of money off of this, and continuing the drug game. And now you have a very, very profitable, lucrative private prison industry. You also have slave labor, because you have some of these people working for cents, and they're working. So you got basically free labor, and you got this whole business that makes a profit. And now you have also more of an expansion on that, this time with the use of surveillance tech, Israeli spyware, AI. And it's going to be used to further this into yet another business venture, that is the immigration border control issue.
Yeah.
What? I'm sorry?
I didn't say anything. I said, yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you said something. And so now it's just expanded into that. But now they're going to run out of these people eventually, and they're going to go after, every person that says something they don't like. And those warehouses are going to need to be used. They're not going to be empty. And the money that they can make off of imprisoning people for XYZ and for sending them off somewhere and having this industry grow, that's great for them. It's not great for you, but it's great for them. And hey, if they can put less people in society that are going to cause a problem, the better for society. We want a society of compliant individuals that just put their head down and work and don't want for more, don't oppose, are robots. We're building a society of human robots instead of having, a society where we thrive. We're building a society of human robots and that in itself is, I think, the death of society as a whole. So scary times.
Yeah, and this is why they name you a domestic terrorist. Once again, this started with the whole George W. Bush enemy combatants, right? Oh, it's an enemy combatant. That person doesn't have rights. This is the thing that drives me crazy. The thing that was supposed to make America great again is we were going to go back to one of the most standing principles of due process, right? That's what separates America from every other country out there, is that you have a right. You are innocent until proven guilty. You have due process. No king, authoritarian can come in there, and you have a right to a public trial, right? That's what separates us from everybody else. Now we're removing that. And it started with the enemy combatants. Now it's the illegal immigrant. And then it's going to be the domestic terrorist. So this is what they're going to do, because there is money to be made off this. Hand over fist, right? You can make so much money on this stuff. The people who are going to make money on this stuff are ridiculous. You're talking about $38 billion just to secure the places. Then the state is going to have to pay, or the federal government is going to have to pay to feed, clothe, all these things. And then the more rights you take away, the more people you can detain, the longer you can hold them for, the more money you can make. Do you see what's going on? It's going to be you sooner or later. They're going to turn it into you. They always do this. So when you are going against the Constitution that you so, heartily felt was the most important thing, we got to go to the Constitution. I'm a constitutionalist, right, fam? It's out the window now because, oh, well, it's the immigrant. Well, you're lacking principles, and they're going to be coming for you. I know her name is Yasmin Anasari, and I don't know much about her, but she did get a chance to look at a lot of these ICE detention centers. So I want to show her. I think she is a Democrat. I'm not endorsing her, but what she talked about here in this here, I've seen firsthand the abhorrent abuse of the neglect inside ICE detention centers. That's why I introduced the Drain ICE Act to repeal the $75 billion slush fund handed to ICE. And they have been handing a lot of money to ICE. You can't deny that. And why I'm the original co-sponsor of the legislation to impeach Kristi Noem. We need accountability now. She's absolutely right. There's all this money, and the Democrats just agreed to give more money to ICE hand over foot. And when they were in power, they gave money to ICE, a lot of it. So take a listen to what she has to say.
We are standing outside what has turned into the Trump regime's personal paramilitary force turned against the civilian population in this country. Not only are we seeing Americans murdered in cold blood, people terrorized in their workplaces, in their schools, in their churches, but what we are not seeing is arguably even worse, and that is inside the detention centers run by ICE and DHS and two for-profit private prison companies, Core Civic and Geo Group, that are making billions of dollars to torture and abuse and mistreat people, and dozens of people have died in ICE detention centers. I have a constituent in my district named Yadi who has been in ICE detention for almost 1 full year now. She has leukemia. She's lost 70 pounds since being in ICE detention. The last time I was there, I personally saw her vomit blood, and an ICE agent tell me that must just be a side effect of the Advil they are giving her, which is the only thing they have given her for leukemia. We need to end for-profit private prison companies running our detention centers in this country. We have to impeach Kristi Noem. We have to drain ICE of the funding that they were given in the big ugly bill that took from your health care to fund this violence. Everyone is impacted by this terror. So we will defund and dismantle ICE once and for all.
So once again, I'm sure I'm not going to agree with her on a lot of other issues, but she makes a strong point over here, fam. This is something I saw one night from Colin Radix Carter and Reef Breland, or Indie News Network, talking about this. And my friend Christian Guzik, who also told me about this stuff, that he had read this or this Substack or this article on what's really going on in these ICE detention centers. And it's the same method they used in Guantanamo Bay when you don't have the same rights. And now you have kids getting in there. There's a lot of reports. And once again, you know how we feel about the children. It's ridiculous. And the Democrats are going to do the same thing, right? Remember that Obama built these cages that Donald Trump was filling up. So we need to talk about this. At Trump's ICE detention center camp in Dilley, Texas, agents are reportedly raiding family dormitories to confiscate children's letters after they exposed abuse and neglect. Kids wrote about fear, depression, and being denied school. Instead of fixing the conditions, authorities are trying to silence them. Scroll up. Raiding children's letters inside a detention camp. Now, Jayme, let's click on it. Make sure the volume's loud. This stuff is hard for me to stomach at times because this is happening. We see them detaining children left and right. This Gestapo tactic force. So listen, this is some children inside some detention centers.
Hello, my name is Ariana V. I'm 14 years old and I'm from Honduras. I've been detained for 45 days and I have never felt so much fear to go to a place as I feel here. Every time I remind myself that once I go back to Honduras, a lot of dangerous things could happen to my mom and I. My younger siblings haven't been able to see their mom in more than a month. They're very young and you need both of your parents when you're growing up. Since I got to this center, all you will feel is sadness and mostly depression. I haven't been getting any school time either, or the other kids in here. Every single person in here had their jobs, they had their lives. They aren't any danger for this country. All kids are being damaged mentally. They witness how their parents and other people are being treated. They don't have schools or doctors. Hello, my name is Ariana V. I'm 14 years old.
Keep going. Oh, that was it. That's all of it?
That was it. That was it.
That was all of it. Sorry. So you can see, fam, and now they're going in there trying to hide the evidence. They're trying to rip it up, whatnot. They don't have rights. That's the way they're treating them. They're treating them, there's no due process. They're holding them for long time. They're making money off them. This is for profit. This is what it's all about. And at the same time, the ICE agents are walking around with face recognition and putting you on the grid. I mean, there's so much that's happening under the Trump administration. And, this is something that Catherine Austin Fitts said. They'll use the fear of immigration to get you to go along and consent to give up your rights and whatnot. They're doing it to these children right now, these immigrants right now, but they're going to do it to you tomorrow. And even if they weren't going to do it to you tomorrow, is this a Christian-like thing to do, to allow this to happen, to kids to be tortured? What do you think, fam? This is disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, I think what can we expect from a country and a group of people that allowed kids to be blown up for over 2 years? Foreign kids, right? As long as they're foreign kids. The thing is, a lot of these people are talking about Epstein, or talking about child abuse. Well, what is this if not child abuse? You don't know. There's been reports of sexual abuse, sexual harassment, of that some of these children are being sex trafficked, that they're being trafficked in general. We don't know what's going on because these people have complete and total control of these systems. And at its very core, it's just inhumane. It is wrong. But eventually it will come to everybody else. And it's not just going to be kids, it's going to be everybody. And if you don't stop it now, because there's not enough humanity in you to care about some foreign kid that you think is a criminal because we bombed their country or we regime changed their country. I mean, again, these countries are Central American countries that we have continuously interfered and destroyed with the drug bullshit war on drugs that we've promoted. And now we have the audacity to pretend that the ramifications of that are not our responsibility. I mean, it's beyond inhumane. It's completely sociopathic and lacking in any accountability that we're sending these people back to that. And even if we aren't, and they're sitting in prison, what do children have to do with anything? I mean, these are innocent children that have no say in what's going on. It's really, truly disgusting for a group of people that say they care about Christianity and Christian values and children. I don't really see that reflected.
Yeah. And it's also, too, the reason why I played that first tweet in the very beginning was to say that the cause of this migration, because I know a lot of people out there, well, they shouldn't have come here illegally. We can't take care of the world's all their no, we caused the problem to begin with, especially in Latin America, and they end up on our doorstep. So we should be the party of individual responsibility should be responsible for our government's actions instead of sitting there and protecting it. So these are more children that, the other day there was an incident where they raided a bunch of children and adults, whatnot, and the kids had to flee. Go ahead, Jayme, throw it up. A new lawsuit filed against ICE after kids forced to run to their lives at a raid on family night. I didn't get caught, boys said. Nobody got some handcuffs on me. This is what the kids are telling. Little kids have to talk about. Dozens of minors were among hundreds detained, zip-tied, and separated from their parents. Agents chose to raid on family night at the LA Cathedral Arena, a family-oriented picnic, including children as young as 5. At one point, a crowd of people looking for their loved ones surged forward, and agents fired rubber bullets at them. We saw something similar to this the other night where ICE agents were in New York by a school trying to grab kids, parents. I mean, it's disgusting. When you have a quota, which ICE does for arrest and not convictions, that's all types of fucking pissing and shitting our Constitution. Same thing with not having the, hold on, an 8-year-old boy. Leave it over there. I'm going to go back and read it. Go to the 8-year-old boy right there. We have all these situations happening too as well, where we see memos being dropped where they have permission, ICE agents, to go into houses without a judicial warrant instead of an administrative warrant. That's against the Constitution. It's against the law. Same thing about covering up your faces and identifying yourself. It's not okay. You're not principled if you were justifying that behavior, because once the other side is in, they'll do it against you. Be fucking principled, conservatives. One 8-year-old boy appeared on a local news report and described how he had picked tiny shards of glass out of his mouth. The ACLU filed a federal civil rights lawsuit highlighting the mistreatment of families, many of them who were U.S. citizens of Hispanic descent. They're still arresting Americans. The joint FBI and ICE raid was allegedly looking for an illegal gambling operation in Wilder, Idaho. I mean, give me a fucking break. An illegal gambling operation, fam. Take a look and listen to what the little kid says. Put the volume all the way up.
I think I got caught. Nope, I think I got some handcuffs.
They're teaching their children to avoid police and, ICE agents and stuff. And he was proud that he didn't get cuffed. Is this a fucking Christian-like thing that you're doing? Is this what Christ would fucking do? Separating families, terrorizing children?
That's not what
There's
a child should be worried about.
No fucking justification you can give me. I'm sorry, fam. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying that's not what a child should be worried about. Like being cuffed and taken at 5 years old. They should be worried about nothing, like playing outside and having fun.
Terrible. Fam, this is why I said we want to send you to Argentina. We got to send me to Tennessee. Residents speak out against ICE detention. Jayme, get it up. Which one are we at?
You're on the Instagram video.
Oh, get the Instagram post on. I'm sorry. Get that one up and play that.
I just received a call from the Dilley Detention Center. Juan Nicolas has been rushed to the hospital. And I've been able to confirm this with family members of Juan Nicolas and his parents on the outside. It's unclear what happened for them to take him to the hospital. It is my understanding that he was taken by ambulance. So at some point, the decision was made that he should be taken to a hospital immediately. At this time, I'm still working to gather more information. All that I can ask from everyone who's been keeping up with this case is to please pray for this baby. He's just 2 months old. He's been sick for about 3 weeks. And I really hope that later tonight or tomorrow, I have a positive update for you guys.
Fam, how is there any justification for a 2-month-old baby to be in an ICE detention facility. 2 months. And on top of it, no kids in cages. On top of it, there was an incident last week where they tried to send him to the doctor, and there was no doctor there. He couldn't even get medical help inside the ICE detention centers. What the fuck is going on in these detention centers? You call this humane? 2-month-year-olds. 2 months. Residents speak out against ICE detention facility in Lebanon, Tennessee. Very, very happy to see this here. This is some really good fucking news. Way to go, Tennessee. Why isn't it? I'm so sorry. I'm trying to read it, but I can't even. Residents protest against ICE detention facility during a Wilson County Commission's meeting at the Wilson County Courthouse in Tennessee on February 17, 2026 in Lebanon, Tennessee. Residents protest against the ICE. That's more pictures and stuff. I don't have the article here, but because it's not pulling up on my end. But you can see all the pictures. Jayme, just go through some of the pictures a little bit. You can see some of the pictures of the people. No ICE, whatnot. Love thy neighbor. That was the message in Minnesota. Immigrants belong in Tennessee, which I'm great to see. This is something that a lot of conservatives think that they're a slam dunk on, that leftists don't want immigrants here. That's not true. There's a lot of us who embrace our immigrant community, that love our immigrant community, right? That we stand by our immigrant community. No ICE concentration camps. So there is a push now, fam, and it happened in New Mexico. You can put this up, where they made a law that says ICE facilities can no longer exist. The Immigration Safety Act was approved 24-15 by the New Mexico State Senate. And I believe I do have an article right behind it, fam. The New Mexico Senate passes bills seeking to close immigration detention facilities, and they got it done. The New Mexico Senate passed the bill Tuesday that could shut down immigration detention centers in the state, successfully sending the legislation to the governor's desk after nearly a decade of failed attempts. With Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham in support, New Mexico is expected to join 6 other states that have also severed ties with the Immigration and Customs Enforcement amid ongoing public outcry over the agents' use of force. We're better than this. You don't have to turn on the TV to know that we're better than this, said co-sponsor Senator Joseph Cervantes, a Democrat of Las Cruces. Cervantes voted against past iterations of this bill, a decision he said he now regrets. The vote came nearly 6 hours after the Senate began debate on the bill, delayed by a series of back-to-back monologues by Republican senators about unrelated subjects, from riding horses to Black History Month. And I gotta, I'm gonna fucking stop right there because it's so fucking stupid with these people. I'm sorry for cursing, and you can take it down. But there are pushbacks from legislators in Tennessee too, as well, who have this iron fist, right? And they really want to go after all the immigrants. So this is a battle that's still ongoing because they're still trying to prevent this from happening. They also had another emergency bill, a funding bill, saying, and this is what they're claiming, fam, if you shut down these detention centers, the people who have jobs in these detention centers will lose their jobs.
Well, get another job. I don't know what
they'll lose their jobs.
People are losing their lives.
Yeah, this
People
is what they're
losing
arguing.
their lives. What are you talking about? Who built this industry? You know, this is that is what they'll argue. They'll say, well, don't you want people to have jobs? Don't you want the economy to get better? Not at this stake. That's like saying, don't you want kids to get bombed and killed? You know, like this is the only way to do it. For America to win, we need to kill and bomb all these people in these other countries. Like that, again, they're manufacturing consent now, saying that these are the only jobs. You can have they can make any other job in any other industry. How about the industry of making it easier for people to come here legally? How about an industry where people don't have to come here illegally because the process doesn't take 30 years, where people who are in dire danger of getting killed, like this little girl wrote being afraid of going back to Honduras because they could be in danger because of the very same mechanisms that our government has created. Why not make it easier? If traveling to the United States, whether for short term, whether for a long term, was made a little bit easier legally, had a very organized structure where people had to do certain things to meet the criteria to stay here, where there was even more regulation and more control as to, how they would participate in the economy, right? If you want people to participate in the economy. But they don't want that. They want cheap labor. They want for-profit prison systems. They want for-profit detention systems. They want to continue resource extracting from these people at their leisure without anybody stopping them. And then they also want to blame the victims of the countries that they've destroyed and have you hate them and say that it's because of them that your life is so shit and that you can't find a job or you're getting laid off work, because that's how you won't blame them, because that's exactly who it is to blame. They're making a lot of money by creating more corporations, by exporting jobs abroad in very poor countries where they don't have to pay them a living wage like they have to pay you. And that's why there's no money and no jobs in America. It's not because of these people coming in. It's because they just don't want to pay you what you deserve. So they will pay somebody else in another country slave wages because they can get away with it. And rinse and repeat this for decades and decades. And you're hating the wrong people. Why don't you hate the people who are causing this entire thing to happen?
Yeah, that's what you should do. And they got you thinking elsewise, right? Fam, the election on April 12th in Peru, that's going to be just one round, right? I know the election, the last day of May 31st, is the first round of the Colombian election, right? I don't know when the second round is, and we need to figure that out.
It's later.
Yeah, we need to figure that out. So, because we might want to go for the second round, not the first round. Last time we went to the first round, and Wyatt Reed went to the second round. So that's something to keep in mind. And to do so, people like Eric Munn, 28 minutes ago, donated $5. One of the best independent podcasts. Love you two. Always on point. Thank you for your show, fam. I'm sorry, before you even got into these here and started throwing up the Give, Send, Go, did you have anything else to say on this whole ICE detention center? I thought that was the last piece. I apologize if I didn't let a woman speak. Let a woman speak, right? He used to tell me back in the days. Did you say everything you had to say on these ICE detention centers? Because I want to do more stories on this ICE detention centers. I want to go to some of these places. I would love to go to Tennessee. I would love for you to go to Argentina. I think that we can do this work, guys, if you really help us out. And what you guys have been doing so far is above and beyond. It really is. I am beyond touched on how much love we have out there, because it really doesn't reflect with a lot of our numbers that are suppressed, right? I mean, we don't have 100 people today on the YouTube show. And at one point we had over 1,000 on our live streams before the AOC letter, before we got our neutering. I was going to say our nuts cut off, but I don't want to, claim you have nuts. So before we got neutered, she got a lot of balls, that girl. But for people like Eric and all these other people like Natalie and all these other people have been throwing money, and you really are helping us out and you really are touching us in the heart. We were saying the other day, wow, how great out of the gate. And we'd like to go cover these things. We have to cover Peru. We showed you what's going on. There's going to be a fight for that lithium. And Famine even talked about this time, let's not just stay in Lima. Let's get out to the outer rims. And I really, to tell you the truth, yesterday I spoke to a guy, a Somali. If I can make that mistake all the time. A Somali. Boya J. Faraj, we talked about Somalia. We talked about how it's strategically located. We talked about the fraud case and how it reflected on what's going on, the manufacturing of consent to bomb that country 130 times last year, and we haven't stopped this year, right? It's all about regime change. Israel recognizing Somaliland, the north part of Somalia, by Djibouti, by the African Horn. There's a reason why we did that, right? I also talked to somebody from Pakistan, Salman Ahmad, Dr. Salman Ahmad, who was friends. His nickname was Logi, is what Imran Khan called them. They were cricket players together, right? And we talked about that, what was going on in that situation over there. So we want to be able to cover so many things we can And if you guys help us out, we'll go do so, right? We're definitely going to go to Peru. You guys have made that, possible. But there's a lot of stuff going on. If we get a few extra bucks in the tank, we'll be able to go to these places and get the story and bring it back to you. I think it's important. What we showed going on the streets of Argentina, that's something fam can cover. What's going on in Tennessee, I can go cover that. You know what I'm saying? We can cover these things and bring you the news. So please help us out if you can. Thank you, Eric Munn. This anonymous person, fam, I can't wait to love and hug and squeeze this anonymous person. I don't know why their parents named them anonymous, but it's kind of weird. 8 minutes ago, election integrity is one of the most important part of any democracy. I can hardly afford this and value your commitment so much, fam. Thank you so much. We know that when you guys throw a few bucks in, it really is it's heartfelt, because not everybody can do these things, and we understand and we appreciate you doing so. So please, if you can, go to the Give, Send, Go, donate. We'll read your name we'll read your name live on the air like we're doing. If you can't, go hit that big share button. Share it out there and help us get on the ground. Jayme, what you should do is just, as playing the outro music, put up some of the comments you have starred going along. Okay? Can you do that, Jayme? Because we really can't read it now. It is 3 o'clock and we have to go. It's almost 2.5 hours of this show, fam. So any other last closing remarks today as we close out the show? We'll be back on Friday. I will not be there. I'll be on assignment. Fam will be here, and she'll be with a co-host once we solidify that. But we're going to try to keep the show going consistently Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We're going to start the clock at 12:30, so we'll be here. You can depend on us, and we'll be consistent with it now that this is the way moving forward. It's kind of awesome, fam. We went on this little journey, and here we are back together. I know you can't quit me. Don't lie.
Fam, please. That's all, guys. I just whatever you can to support, whatever you can do to help us out so we can continue our coverage about, especially with stories that aren't being covered, that, again, it's not just elections, but everything else that's happening right now. Please, please, please also, know that we do need your help to continue to do that. So that's all we can ask. If you can share it, that'd be great.
That would be great. So that's it for today. So that's it for today. Fam, there's supposed to be local elections in Palestine in April. What's going on with that? That's crazy. I don't know what they're going to try to do with that. That's nuts. We do have Peru in mid April, so we'll definitely be on the ground for that. We would like to go to Colombia. We got to see what the second round is, but the first round is May 31st. We'll figure that out. And then we have Brazil, which is in October, and I got to see if there's 2 rounds of that as well. So we'll figure it out. Haiti is supposed to have elections. I don't know if that's really going to happen. That's supposed to be in August, but we'll keep you informed. We'll keep our eyes to the ground, and any other situation that pops up too as well. I know there's a lot of events going on. Jayme, you can just post up a lot of the comments that you had starred. Thank you guys for participating. Thank you for joining in. For Craig Pasta, Jardula, Fiorella, Isabel, Jayme, CheeseSlice on the 1s and 2s, all our producers out there online in the chat. We love you too, especially Gabrielle, especially Fred. Thank you to Nat the Cat for donating today as well, and all those other cool people. We'll see you later. It's Truth Out time. Bye-bye. Hey, guys, 4 p.m. Eastern, in an hour, I have my show, Drive Time, on WBAI.org. You can go and listen live. You can call in if you like. It's an awesome call-in show. We're going to be doing that today. So we'll see you later, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.